It's not every day that I get the opportunity to ask a minister in a very informal way. What were some of the lessons that you learned while being in that very highly coveted position?
And this is what I think the role of a minister is, to serve to the public and to serve to the people. What was the most important topic is listen to people.
What do you think of the idea of retirement? I know when people think of retirement, I've read books about this. As soon as you retire, it's like everything. It's one of the worst things you can do for your body.
When you're so young, but it's wise what you're saying. I've adapted a little bit to the Saudi lifestyle, so I'm staying up late, which was not the case before I came here. And my friends say, you are so Saudi now, because I'm traveling Saudi Arabia a lot, so I like the country. What I see in Saudi Arabia is amazing, and I like it a lot. It's a lot of young female being educated in the tech sector, so studying cybersecurity. You have female going to space. I can hardly find any country around the world that has such a clear vision.
Welcome back to Discussions. Thank you for joining us on our little show. Thank you again also to Al Mashtal for helping make this episode possible. Joining me today is a very, very special guest on Discussions. We're going to be diving into the topics of investment, technology, and strategic advising. Joining me today, she is an advisor to His Excellency Khalid Al Faleh, the Minister of Investment. She's also a board member of Aramco Digital, a strategic advisor and investor. Most importantly, she's also a former Minister of Economy and Digital Affairs of Austria. Joining me today is Her Excellency Dr. Margarete Schramboeck. Dr. Margarete, thank you so much for joining me on Discussions.
Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
It truly means a lot for you to be here on Discussions. You know, Discussions is a platform we started because we want to give advice to future generations, wanting to follow in the footsteps of our guests, such as yourself. And, you know, I'm just reading your bio and it's so incredibly impressive. You know, advising His Excellency Khalid Al Faleh, the Saudi Minister of Investment, board member of Aramco, and also, you know, being the former Minister of Economy and Digital Affairs of Austria. It's a very impressive CV. I want to ask you, to start off the interview, for viewers that don't know, who is Dr. Margarete and how did you start your career?
So first of all, thank you for having me, and I'm excited to be here in Saudi Arabia and be part of this special journey, which is a growth journey, and it's very exciting to be here, also to be with so many young people. So I'm happy to join you. Who I am, it's not an easy question. I'm a person who likes to learn all the time, all through her life. So I'm curious about things, to learn new things, and I think I'm a little bit adventurous, because it's not so typical for a former European minister to live in Saudi Arabia, to come here and to bring her husband here and so on. So this is, I think it gives a little bit of insight in who I am as a person.
Yeah, I want to go a little bit out of order in the questions that we have. I want to ask you, since you brought up the topic, why Saudi? Why decide to move to Saudi full time?
My first time in Saudi was in March 2022. I was invited by His Excellency Faisal Al-Ibrahim and Khalid Al-Faleh. They were my hosts, and also Aramco was my host. So I came here and I had actually no perceptions. I read a lot about the growth and what's happening here, and I was very curious. And then a lot of companies were interested coming with me, and when I came here, I fell in love with the people and with the country. Aramco took me to Sheba, which is an amazing and beautiful place. I also saw a lot of places here in Riyadh, and I could not forget Saudi Arabia's experience and the experience I had here. So when I resigned, a few months later, I was minister for 4.5 years. I thought, what was the most exciting and most interesting place I went to? And it was Saudi Arabia. And of course, my friends, everybody I met before, they supported this a lot. And so I was welcome. And this friendship and welcoming culture is most important for me.
Yeah, it's really beautiful to hear. I want to ask you, you know, from your perspective, what is maybe a common misconception people might have about Saudi Or when you mentioned to people that you're moving to Saudi, were there any kind of notions or common misconceptions you heard?
Yeah, there is a lot of questions, of course, concerned with Saudi Arabia. There is how it is to live there as a female. That's the most important question I get. And then when I tell them that there has been so many changes, there is 85% of all engineers in Saudi Arabia are female, that the startup entrepreneurs, a majority are female, SME entrepreneurs. So there is a big surprise. And then people get curious. So what I do is act also as an informal ambassador, explaining to everybody I know. And also I'm a lot of on panels and discussions, official discussions, giving also interviews to explain what Saudi Arabia is about. And it's about a big transformation going on. It's a big cultural business change going on here. It's a safe place to live. And everybody who has come here, I try to bring people here also for their holidays to enjoy Alola or Hail or other places, Apa. And that is what I'm really passionate about.
That's beautiful. I think we should add to your title, Informal Ambassador of Saudi. Let's talk about investment opportunities within the kingdom. How do you see the kingdom's Vision 2030 influencing investment opportunities within the region?
Well, it has a very big impact. So the first important topic is that it's very clear. I can hardly find any country around the world that has such a clear vision for growth in the different sectors. So companies coming into Saudi can rely on this. They can read about it. They can ask the Ministry of Investment. There are experts in all the different fields there who are doing an amazing job and explain what is going on in automotive, what's going on in other industrial sector, what's in tourism, and so on. So hardly any country in the world has such a clear vision. That helps a lot. Second, there are programs. There are a lot of programs. Just recently, Ministry of Investment, together with the Ministry of Industry, they have launched a program for SME and attracting production of European, especially European SME. That's important because a lot of the European tech companies are family-owned businesses. They are medium-sized. We call them the hidden champions. Sometimes you really have to search for them. And this clear support, also financial support, helps them, of course, to come here. There are different companies from Germany, from Austria, from Switzerland that have come here. And it's not only the conglomerates which are interesting for Saudi Arabia and are interested in Saudi, but it's these high-tech, medium-sized companies. So my most important target is to build this bridge, especially between Europe and Saudi Arabia.
And speaking on building the bridge, what would you say are your future goals? When it comes to being an advisor, a strategic advisor for Aramco and also an advisor to His Excellency Khalid Al Faleh. What would you say your goals or what do you hope to accomplish in Saudi?
Well, to contribute to this digital transformation and to help make the speed possible. So there is a big speed. You're a young nation. 26 years old is your average, as far as I know. So there is a lot of preparedness, and people are prepared to move quickly. And then to bring in the tools and help to bring in the right skills and also the right companies is one of my major targets. And of course, in Aramco Digital, we also have this target to support the industry, especially the B2B and government sector in Saudi Arabia. So our clear focus is in the IT, especially in communication and others. So our solutions should help especially the industrial sector to transform as quickly as possible.
Mm-hmm. And you're speaking about the average being 26, and I smiled because I'm exactly 26. So you're speaking to the average. Let's go back. I want to backtrack a bit in time. We want discussions to be as beneficial as possible. And when I looked at the analytics of who our viewers are, we had majority being youth under the age of 35. So you have a doctorate in social and economic sciences. We want this platform to be beneficial for those wanting to pursue education across sectors. So how did you know this is what you wanted to study?
Well, for me, it was a little bit challenging because none of my family members had studied before. So my father and my mother, God bless them, they are really did everything to support me. So they really put all their effort into my education. So they themselves were not allowed to do any study. So they had to work hard, physical work. My father was working in a sewing mill. My mother was working in a kitchen in a hotel. And I collected the money and was saving the money also for my education. Second good thing was education was free, as it is in Saudi Arabia. So there is free access to education, which is very important for young girls, especially when they come from families where it's not typical that you go to study. So for me, it was a little bit challenging. What should I study? And then I found that business administration and all these type topics will give me a very broad approach and opportunities when I did not exactly know where to go yet. Yeah? So I took this one, and I was happy that I got very early in contact with high-tech companies. So I was in a group of companies of students, which were the best students at the University of Economic of Vienna. And one of our sponsors was at that time Alcatel, which was a tech company, French tech company. And that gave me an early insight into this sector. And I suddenly found out, this is the sector I want to be in. Now, a lot of young people know you have social media, you have everything. You can learn much faster than we could. And so I learned about this sector, and I thought, this is the sector I want to be in because I want to move fast. And this sector was moving fast over the last decades, 20 years. It was, in my view, the most important sector, changing all our lives in private, public, and in business.
Mm-hmm. And then after that, you went into the private sector directly, correct?
Yeah.
So what made you decide to, I mean, you're a politician, what made you decide to move from the private sector into the world of politics and government?
Well, it was also not planned. So some of the advice I could give is, if there is an open door, you have to go through it. So don't be afraid. Nothing can happen to you, and you will never know if you don't try. So for me, this was the case when I took my first big management job. I was only 26 years old, exactly that, when I was asked to be a technical director of Alcatel in Austria at that time. And that was, and I was not a technician. So I asked them, I'm not a technician. Are you aware of that? They said, no, that's not what we need. We need somebody who is able to redesign the processes, to motivate the people, to find out what are the real problems, to listen to the guys. They were mostly men, yeah, and to transform this into a structure which is well working. Same was true then many years later, when I was asked out of nowhere, actually, if I would be a minister of economy and digital affairs. I got a call late in the evening. And I thought the same again. It's a completely new field. I will always think, what would it have been? How would it have been if I would not have done it? So I decided, I asked my husband, he was next to me driving the car. And I said, I think you have to stop at the side of the road. And he said, no, we have to go to the dinner. I think you have to stop at the side. We have to discuss something. Yeah. So I agreed very, very quickly. We turned around, and next 2 days, I became minister, and I never regretted it. It was a big adventure. It brought me here also to Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, everything happens for a reason, like you said, taking that opportunity. But what did that feel like, receiving that call and receiving that information that they want you to be the minister?
Well, I was honored, very honored. And also, of course, I had a lot of respect for the function, but it also gave me the feeling I could give something back to my country, because, as I told you before, only because of the open schools, the possibility to learn, to be supported by the state. Also, I had support from the state to do my master's thesis in London. So all this was for me the opportunity to give something back to my country.
That's brilliant. And it's not every day that I get the opportunity to ask a minister in a very informal way, having that experience, being that minister, what were some of the lessons that you learned while being in that very highly coveted position?
Well, there were a lot of lessons to learn because it was a very yet a time with a lot of changes. We suddenly, there was COVID out of nowhere, and we had to completely adapt to the situation. Then it was also the time when the war in Ukraine started, which is for Europe an important, and Austria not being too far away from the Ukrainian border. So these were all things which happened, which of course made me very humble and learn day by day. What was the most important topic is listen to people. It's true when you start your own business, when you are in a company, you work as an advisor, as a minister. It's important people know what they need, and people know also often the answers, and they need the support to be able to really take the right decisions. And this is what I think the role of a minister is, to serve to the public and to serve to the people.
And you spoke about some of the challenges, being the Ukraine-Russia war. You spoke about COVID happening during that time. Were there any other challenges that you feel you've faced throughout your career, and how did you overcome them? And also, what lessons can we learn from the challenges you've overcome?
Yeah, the main topic is how to manage your personal time and to take priorities. So, independent of the topics you have to drive, which is digital transformation for the people in their private lives. So we introduced digital school lessons. We equipped the young next generation with the necessary mobile tools to be able to work. And we had programs for the SME, digitizing the SME. So beside all this, the most important topic was, of course, to listen and to learn, and then to implement fast. So this is something you don't have a lot of time. Sometimes as a European minister, I was 4.5 years in total, which was quite a long time. But here it's better. In Saudi Arabia, your ministers are longer in their functions. European democracies have a tendency to force the system to change very quickly with elections, with other things, with things that happen. So I think that what you have here in Saudi Arabia is more stability in this and the long-term view on things.
Mhm. Well, you talked about it very slightly, but how do you juggle it all? I mean, when I was reading your bio at the very beginning of this interview, you wear so many different hats and so many high level positions, as a strategic advisor. How do you manage that work life balance and being able to take care of yourself in such a demanding role?
Mm. For me, it's interesting because I relax most, the more stressful it
Oh,
is. So, work has never been a burden on me. Of course, there are days where you think, "Oh my God, it's what happened," and again, and this and this. But in total, it's something which is inspiring me day by day. Meeting people like you, seeing new situations and having to respond to that. And some of the guys I worked with, they said, you are full of ideas. So I hope I will never run out of new ideas. And this is what is here now. So it's like a third life I have. So business life. The first one was in typical corporates. So I was CEO, of Austria Telecom, which is like STC in Austria. Then it was in the government, and now here it's completely reinventing, coming here alone Now I've built up a team around me, and having these different roles also keeps me very flexible. So that's what I like about my life.
And then let's talk about your leadership style. How would you describe your leadership style, and what qualities do you believe are essential for being an effective leader?
So, one of the most important topics is you cannot communicate enough. Yeah. So, talking to each other, watching the other, not only hearing the words, but also seeing what reactions are there. So, what is the eyes telling me? What is the face telling me? What are the gestures telling me? That's very important. And I think that was one of the skills I had from a very early age to be able to see this and then to react accordingly. Because I'm a strong believer, you have to like people a lot to lead people in whatever role you are. So if you don't like them, it's difficult in the long run because they will leave you. And especially this next generation is different to generations before. You know exactly what you do. You have a lot of opportunities. You can choose between different topics, and you have so much information. So that's different to generations before. And so therefore, I think this is even more important than in the past, to be a coach, to be a trainer, to enable somebody to find the right role. There is a right role for everybody. If it's not successful, then it's most probably because the person is not in the right role and there is another one. So we should not send them away, but we should find the right sweet spot where the person can be most successful.
And how did you hone this skill of observation and communication? Reading people's body language and their signs. You said you had it from a very young age, but do you recommend any ways that someone can develop that skill?
Yeah, of course you can. You can train yourself also to listen more carefully and to see during your whole career how was how was one decision executed, how were the reactions, did it work or did it not work. So it's important to start early and to train yourself and not to be frustrated when it doesn't work. And we are all born to make mistakes, so we can learn from these mistakes. And this is a culture which I appreciate a lot, especially outside Europe, because our failure culture is not the best. This better in the US, for example, when you have a company and you fail and somebody says to you, congratulations, you learned from it. Europe is different, especially the German-speaking region. So we should get away from a blame culture to a culture of opportunities. Yeah. And this is why I like to work a lot with international communities, because then there is a little bit different. Yeah. So this is something which I'm convinced is important to learn over your lifetime, to take the opportunities and find yourself coaches. So I was looking around. I was very young. I was 32 when I had my first CEO role. And I was leading a tech company from one day to the other, literally. So I thought, who would be out there whom I could learn from? And I addressed the person. I said, okay, I've seen you. Can you be a mentor? Can you sit down with me every now and then? So like once a quarter. And I can exchange with you on the topics I have. And to my surprise, I just tried. The person who was a leading manager, very successful entrepreneur, also owner of a big company, he said, yes, yeah, we can do that.
Oh.
So nothing happened to me. If he had said no, yeah, I tried. I could try with the next one. So this is, I think, important.
I love that mindset. I mean, we were talking before we were filming, and I told you about my mentor that taught me everything I knew about journalism and media. I want to ask you, if someone at home is watching this episode and they listen to what you said about mentorship, what advice would you give them to finding a right mentor and approaching a mentor? What mindset should they have?
They should look around and somebody they know a little bit at least. It's not about just addressing somebody you don't know, but looking around in your
Circle.
family, yeah, businesses, in your area, at university, at your first company you start with, to see somebody who can help you with your next step. So don't think about the future in 20, how it is in 20 years. Think about the next step and how you can do it better. And you will find the right person, I'm sure, very close around you.
Amazing. Let's move to the topic of investment.
Yeah.
What's the best investment or economic advice you have ever received?
Also here, it's important to look carefully at the investments. Of course, I have education in economics, so I know balance sheets and P&L. So learn to read the P&L. So there is the dream, there is the innovation, and then the second are the figures. So look at them carefully too. First, you need to believe in people, but also then you need to see how it can materialize. That's important. So be there in both worlds, in the world of learning your tools, your equipment. If you want to invest in companies, you need to understand their business. You need to understand how their figures look like, but also learn how to read the counterpart and what opportunities lies in them, and what you think they can achieve. Yeah.
And then looking to the future and significant trends, when I think of the future of technology, I think obviously Tesla, I think of autonomous vehicles, the autonomous flying taxis that we're going to see in the future. So when I'm looking at areas, not just investing money, but in areas to invest my time, education, looking to more information, what do you see as the most significant trends shaping the future of technology? And what trends should we be monitoring in terms of tech innovation in the future?
Yeah, it has a lot moved from hardware to software and to intelligence, and stressing again the word artificial intelligence, which is used a lot today. That's the most important topic you should look into. It's the same is true for me. So I've grown up in a generation where I had my first laptop at the age of 22, and we were starting with Excel, and we thought Excel would be is the leading topic, cannot be better than that. It helped me a lot actually, because when I remember I was working in the controlling department, and I had to prepare a human resources report, and suddenly they brought me paper. They brought me like a staple of paper and said, okay, can you generate a report of this? And I thought to myself, it must we can do that differently. Yeah, why do I need to use my time, my valuable time, to take the figures from here to put it in an Excel file, and then somebody reports it? And guess what happened at the end? I had a difference of one person of like 600, and then I need to find the mistakes where did I lose the one person. So the good thing is today we don't have to take care of this anymore. So artificial intelligence is helping us, AI is helping us to free our lives from these repetitive jobs, from these topics, which actually we should not take care of, but we should invest, we should investigate, we should research, we should develop new ideas. This is where we are there for, and not putting in the different things. Yeah.
And then on to the topic of LinkedIn and LinkedIn advice. You have over 26,000 followers on LinkedIn. I get constantly so many DMs asking me, what advice do you have for LinkedIn? Or can you bring on a guest to ask them about growing your LinkedIn account? So how did you build this follower base on LinkedIn? And what advice would you provide for someone hoping to do the same?
First of all, I'm happy it's a very valuable and good platform helping business people to exchange. And I think this is what it should be. It should be something where you, when you post it, add value to the one who is reading it. First, maybe because they can see, okay, this is an interesting company, this is an interesting topic, and get some inspiration on it, or get some network and see, I was looking for somebody in AI, and here is um, uh, a, uh, a reference to somebody which I can connect to. Then a second, do it regularly. So look at it regularly. So I'm on it daily, personally. And there's maybe the difference also to others. What you read there is my personal post. So I take this very serious, and I think this is what people feel. And there a lot of, I'm so sorry that often I cannot, and sometimes I cannot answer to all the personal messages I get, but I try. And I think this is something which is important on LinkedIn. Can I do better? Yes. There are others too, and we should always look on the others, what we can do better.
No, but 26 is still very impressive. 20, and I can, when I look at your posts, they're very personalized. Like you said, sometimes you can decipher if someone hired someone to write posts for them or if it's coming from personal. And I think that's what's resonating a lot with what you're doing. It's very personal.
It's very personal, writing myself.
Yeah. So what key advice would you offer young professionals that are just starting out in their career very early on?
Be open, look around. When there is an opportunity to learn, don't push back the opportunity in a way that you think, no, I insist on doing something else. So if you have an idea, and sometimes the ideas develop, and you should be open to this. So I thought I would definitely start in one of the big business consulting companies at my age. So when I thought, the names, and then came around a tech company which said, but we want you come to us. And I said, okay, you are producing, at that time Alcatel was doing telephone systems, and I said, fixed line telephone. And I said, oh God, this is really boring. I don't know if I want to do this. But then I found out what else they are doing. And then I said, yeah, come, let's try. And they gave me the opportunity to do a full-time job in half-time. So the deal was, I want to do a PhD. And I told them I need the time to do it. And I said, okay, deal. If you do a full-time job as internal auditor in half-time, we can work together. And I said, yeah, that's good. And I learned a lot from this. Also, there were a lot of senior people in this company who opened me a lot of doors.
Yeah. I want to ask you, so as a prominent female leader in technology, what advice would you give specifically to women aspiring to follow your footsteps in this sector?
What I see in Saudi Arabia is amazing, and I like it a lot. It's a lot of young female being educated in the tech sector. So studying cybersecurity, you have female going to space and biotech, and there is so many opportunities, and it's a great field. The tech sector is very flexible. They don't care if you are female or not. They give you a lot of opportunities. I think it's a very, very good place to start with. And then, of course, you have to look at the opportunities. I want to give one advice to the next generation: stay long enough to learn, to really learn your job well, and then move on, because I see a lot of changes happening nowadays, changing every 6 months, every 8 months, moving on. I'm convinced that you need 1.5, 2 years to really deep dive into a job and to learn it really properly, and then to move on to the next one. So that's my advice. It's a little bit contrary to what I see in some CVs, but I'm convinced this is a good time span then to look for something new.
So would you say on average every 2 years is a good time?
1.5 and 2 years. 2 years, I would say, yeah.
To jump to a new career?
Yes.
Okay, nice. Let's move on to the topic of politics. Since you were a politician, you were a minister. What is the most important characteristic trait that you believe someone should have to be a successful politician?
I mentioned one thing is listening to people, liking people, to be able to work for them and to be at service for them. Then what is important is to be strong in execution and quick. Yeah, so have the look at the opportunities. I'm as I was an expert in a politician role, in a government role. That's my view on it. There would be others, maybe in Europe, who would say it's more like the political part and so on. That's important too. But I'm still convinced that you need a basis that you built on. And I'm happy to see this, especially here in Saudi. You have your Minister of Communications being formerly in Cisco, and there is a lot of good basis. His Excellency Khaled Al-Fali, who is CEO of Aramco. So there's a big knowledge they can base their decisions on.
Yeah. And then speaking about His Excellency Khaled Al-Faleh, you're currently the advisor to His Excellency, the Minister of Investment. Can you tell us about that current role that you're leading?
Well, when I was here as a minister, he was so kind to host me. I met him and I was very impressed by what the Ministry of Investment is doing. And it's absolutely necessary and a big value add to the vision to bring in all these companies, to be the first landing point, a single point of contact, the service organization. And when we talked, I was happy to contribute. And this is what I do. I explain to you this bridge, especially between Europe, Austria, of course, but also other countries. It's important. And as I have this insight into this tech community of Europe, activating them and drawing their attention to Saudi Arabia, because sometimes they just don't see the opportunity. I would say French and Italians have been here more, but in the DACH, the German-speaking countries, there is still a way to go and a lot to offer. And building this bridge, and hopefully also into the other direction, in both ways, to have this good exchange. This is what I'm passionate about.
And I can tell you can easily see that you're passionate about this topic and people. And it's beautiful to see. And I like even the question before when we talked about, having what characteristic traits you need to be a politician. It's people, because your job is to serve. And I can see it as you're speaking in this interview. It's very obvious how passionate you are about people and service, not just to your country, but also to Saudi Arabia, I've noticed.
Yes, my new home. I brought my husband here. So we live in Oleya, which is a beautiful district, and gives me the opportunity to explore a lot, also in the evenings and nights. I've adapted a little bit to the Saudi lifestyle, so I'm staying up late, which was not the case before I came here. And my friends say, "You are so Saudi now," because I'm traveling Saudi Arabia a lot, so I like the country.
Do you drink coffee at night? Or is it not yet?
Yeah, sometimes, and then I cannot sleep. I like the Saudi coffee. I also like its story. By the way, I have a project on coffee too in Saudi Arabia. It's about bringing Austrian and Saudi coffee culture together. It was actually one of the first projects. The Austrian company is called Bieder and Meyer. They have a high-level brand. They came to me and said, we want to go to Saudi Arabia. And said, that's good, because did you know that Saudi is producing coffee in the south? So we went to Jazan. We signed an agreement with Saudi Coffee Company. And now it's about to open the first coffee house soon here.
It's amazing.
And there is a Saudi blend. So the idea was when you had the year 2022 was the year of Saudi coffee. So we took this and said, okay, let's take the Saudi coffee and create 100% Saudi blend with it. And we were the first, even before the big international American giants. We had this 100% Saudi coffee.
That's brilliant. And then how does Austria come into it? Are they creating like a fusion blend together. Is that a
And
possibility?
Austria has a very long history. So Austrian coffee houses are UNESCO World Heritage. When you visit Vienna especially, the Ottomans came to Vienna and left a coffee tradition there. So they left and the coffee houses stayed. So our coffee houses are hundreds of years old. And there was a very old tradition on the coffees. Even it's an immaterial UNESCO World Cultural Heritage. And I think these two stories, these amazing stories of the coffee in Saudi Arabia, of the south of Saudi Arabia and Austria, this is about the storytelling of the two countries.
It's tradition and culture kind of merging together. It's one of the most beautiful soft powers I think there is. We talked about a lot of topics throughout this interview, but I want to hear from you personally. What legacy do you hope to leave behind, in your professional career, and how do you want to be remembered?
Oh, that's it's a tough question. Yeah, it's a tough question to think about what you want to leave behind. Business-wise, let's look at this side. So I think what I appreciate the most, I'm still in contact with a lot of young people that have been in my teams before. So I have a tendency to stay in touch and stay in contact and seeing them develop, taking new roles, being now CEOs when they started out as an assistant somewhere, being successful in their lives, having a good life. I think that's the most important thing for me.
Keeping in touch with them.
Yes, keeping in touch with them, seeing their careers, because I'm in the third part of my career and I still feel very young because I'm always all surrounded by young people in Saudi Arabia. That keeps me alive, and also forming a company in a country and having different roles in your mid-50s. That keeps me young. But what I like is also to look back and see what they did with all the things that they learned.
This was a bit off topic, but you said that you keep yourself busy with so many roles and so many duties. What do you think of the idea of retirement? I know when people think of retirement, I've read books about this. As soon as you retire, it's like everything. It's one of the worst things you can do for your body, retiring, slowing down. What do you think of it?
Well, you're so young, but it's wise what you're saying, because I think this is one of the reasons to stay healthy and to stay with social contacts. I think it's especially the social context that sometimes is then missing. Of course, there will be an age where you want to slow down, but I hope, and I have a feeling this is a long time to go. And as long as you have this in your mind, it is important. And it depends on what type of job you're doing. If I look at my parents who did a very physical job, of course, that's the time you need to rest and relax and give back to your body, and not to stress the body even more with the physical work. So there is a clear difference between us, as we are privileged to learn, and to other types of jobs, and those who are blue-collar workers or who do physical work. I think we have to separate these two.
Mm-hmm. Of course. Yeah. One, I think physically you need to slow down, like you said, to rest.
Yeah.
There's one reoccurring question we like to ask all our guests on discussions. As I said, discussions is an educational platform. We want to give advice to our viewers, for those aspiring to follow in the footsteps of our guests. As a former minister in Austria, what is one piece of advice you would give someone aspiring to follow in your footsteps?
Be open and go use the doors that are open, and go through these doors. Try what is behind it, to learn as much as you can. And I think that's the most important.
Mm-hmm. And what do you think about, this is off topic as well, but what do you think about if you're my age, in your early 20s, and I'm kind of approaching my late 20s now, about trying new things and failure and trying new opportunities? Do you think you should try as many things as possible in your 20s, or should you just stick to one thing at a time?
Not as many things as possible, because there is so many possibilities today. So I think you should take a starting point. I never thought I would go to a tech company, start as an internal auditor in a tech company. And everybody would think, okay, you will stay in the finance department if you start as an internal auditor. But I was open then, and I was looking around. And then when they asked me for being my first big management job was being the technical head, the service director of all these technicians. So it was suddenly me and the technicians there. So you need to stick for a certain period of time. And I think this 2 years is a good time to learn. To lay the basis. So my first job was for 2 years, internal auditor for 2 years, and I learned a lot in this. Then the next one also was for 2.5, 3 years. To get the foundation, and then you can go wherever you want.
Okay, amazing. Those are all my questions. We do have one last segment of discussions. A rapid fire question.
Yeah, wow.
So
exciting.
It's very fun. It's very quick.
Good.
Don't think too much about the replies.
Yes.
It's just a very fast pace. Okay. Ready, set. What's your favorite Saudi food?
It's maguk. I have been cooking it once together with a friend.
Okay, nice. What's your favorite city in Saudi Arabia?
I like Riyadh a lot. I also like Apa.
Okay. Coffee or tea while working?
Saudi coffee.
Oh, nice. Name one book that changed your perspective on business.
There are so many. It's very difficult for me. Hardly can. Well, I can't.
Maybe
can't
top
say.
3? Are there even a few?
A few. There was. There is an inspiring recent reading I have been doing on this change from a project to product management by Alexander Adamopoulos. You can check online in LinkedIn also what he's saying, and it's very inspiring.
Amazing. Which app do you use the most in your daily life?
Yeah, it's ChatGPT.
Okay, same. ChatGPT or email, that's mine. Yeah. What's the most unusual job you've ever had?
I have been selling flowers.
Okay, nice. Do you watch TV?
Yes, I do.
What's your guilty pleasure TV show?
I watch TV mainly for the news, different news like Arab news and others. I need it in English because my Arabic is not good enough yet.
Not yet. That's the keyword.
Not yet. I try. I learned. I listened a lot the last year, and so I think I have now the flow, and I can start to learn more words too.
Inshallah.
Yeah, inshallah.
What's one item you can't live without while traveling?
My mobile device. It's everywhere with me, and it's saving my life.
Everything is on it.
Yeah, everything is on it.
Amazing. Last question. What did you think of this interview on Discussions?
It was inspiring. Thank you. I'm honored to participate. I'm recommending you to everybody.
Your Excellency, the honor is mine. Genuinely. Thank you so much for joining me on Discussions. Those are all my questions. We talked about so many amazing topics, from technology, from investment, from career advice on managing your time. And I know this episode will be so incredibly inspiring for our viewers, not just the youthful generation that we have watching, but also those aspiring to follow in your footsteps. So thank you, Your Excellency, for joining me on Discussions.
Pleasure. Thanks a lot.
The pleasure was mine. Wonderful. Thank you.